my name is Wade McDonald. I'm Managing Director here at SS&C. Show of hands, how many of you have come across SS&C before? So probably you've had a tenth of the room. So just to summarize, SS&C, we are a public firm. We're listed on the NASDAQ. Our revenue per annum is around 6 billion, and our market cap is about 20 billion. Pretty sizable technology innovator. But one of the things that's unique about SS&C is we 50% of our revenue comes from servicing. So we're harnessing the technologies we're building to provide services, and some of those services are regulatory, where we have certain permissions, like, for example, safeguarding investor assets across the retail advised and pensions industries that we serve. So we're a broad church, and we're covering quite a few bases in terms of sectors. Pretty global firm in 140 countries. But we're probably one of the largest firms that no one knows anything about, which is why I asked the question. So that's just a little background about us. I just wanted to set the scene on some of the themes that we want to discuss on this panel. We've heard this morning about the move to DC, and you're all experts in that. And we've been talking about one of these themes, diversification of asset classes and private markets. But there are a few others where AI is really coming to light, and I just wanted to shape those. We talk about market segmentation, we talk about governance, and we talk about ESG, and the things that many trustees in the room, etc., and boards have to deal with, and how AI is going to play a role in management information to those boards. And they also, Nick, have concerns about these new technologies and what it means in terms of sharing of data, etc. So there's a link into governance. I'll bring Ian in on asset classes. A big part of this is investor experience. If we're moving into DC, the member engagement side, what we would call financial wellness is really important, and education of members and communication with members is really important, and AI is going to play a much bigger space. For those of you that were here last year, I actually showed a live capability on the metaverse, and that is some of the investment areas we're making, which is how do I actually, in the future, the youngsters of today will potentially use the same gaming techniques that they like to access advice, etc. So we need to invest in that now. The whole data debate is really central to how AI can be harnessed. I think, Nick, you talked last year about the decumulation dynamics. What do I do when I reach pension age? How does that link health, wealth, and certain products into a lifestyle that individuals can support? So there's a lot more going on, I think, in the decumulation space, and AI is playing a role in that and is going to play a bigger role in that. And then this constant regulatory space that we live in, the ever-changing world. And I think it was Callum. Is Callum still in the room? Callum was talking about value for money. Why are we so fixated with costs? And yet here we are, we're going through the whole consumer duty world, which, guess what, is fixated on how much you're going to charge an investor. So the rivers are kind of going against each other there. And that's dealing with that burden of regulatory change is really important. Who in this room, just a show of hands, are supporters of digital ID coming into the UK? Okay, so it's kind of 50-50, right? But we've just launched a new pension scheme in the UAE. And it's a national pension scheme. It's the first national pension scheme in the region. And it's been an interesting journey because if you live in the UAE, you have something called UAE Pass. And basically the onboarding of members in a digitized context is all in UAE Pass. So the employers that are enrolling the members is a completely frictionless onboarding. For the member, it's great because they don't have to do anything. And for the government, it's great because they can get everything passed through the APIs we give them. And what was interesting in the journey, just from an observational perspective, is that as they go forward and they ramp up, it's a mandatory scheme. By next year, they'll probably have about 400,000 members. There's 6 million account holders ultimately. But the pace at which they can do things because of the reduction or the reduction in paperwork to onboard members, etc., is quite staggering. And the view that we see there, where everyone embraces the fact that actually it's a good thing, is very different from what we're seeing, certainly when you come to the question here in the UK. So there is different nations in putting in pension provisions, digitalization, and where that then takes the country next in terms of advancing and new pension schemes is interesting compared to some of the developed countries, Nick, that are probably going to be going at a slower pace in some instances in embracing these new technologies.